When you text and someone's telling you a price or a time it's going to be done, you have that in the conversation. When you do that over a phone call, it's a he say, she say after that, unless you say, oh, now email me that in writing.
And there's nothing more frustrating, speaking personally as a consumer, when I assume I can text and you get that message like landline unable to text. I'm like, God damn it, now I got to call somebody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stearns with Ascend Digital Agency. Special shout out to the team at Roofer. We appreciate you making this happen. So if you need it, roof measurements, instant roof quotes, clean and pristine proposals, which will give your prospects no choice but to choose you, hit up the team at Roofer. There's going to be a link down in the description. Today we have a very special guest, Weiche with Leadferno. Aaron, welcome.
Mike, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So to be fair, if you were thinking his last name was pronounced otherwise, as did I, and we cleared the air on that before we went live. So my apologies, Aaron. What is Leadferno?
Leadferno is a conversion platform that helps businesses capture more leads from their website traffic, focused on being powered by text messaging. So we can dive into some of those things, but we have a number of capture elements from pop-ups on the website to your contact forms. And instead of routing them through slow, shitty, headed to spam email that is slow communication, we push that right into text messaging so you can communicate faster with your prospects and close more deals.
I love that. Yeah, if you look at my email open rate versus my text, there's a startling difference between the two. Let's take a look. And it's still not great if I'm being honest. I'm going to do this live. So we've got, I don't know if y'all could see this. We got 332. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. 332 unread text messages, but 116,928 unread emails. So
you are not a zero inbox guy, Mike.
Listen, progress over perfection, Aaron. I've made great strides over the course of my lifetime.
All right.
Yeah.
You're one of those that could tell us how many digits do the Apple notifications go to. You could probably tell us. So
listen, we're gonna get there at some point, but until then. So text messaging, it's definitely an effective way to communicate with people. But weren't there some things rolled out last year that were somewhat of a barrier to texting with customers?
So the texting industry has definitely matured at a very quick pace in the last few years. And what it comes down to is they've gotten smart. To some extent, they've introduced more verification, right? I think if anything, it's learning the lessons that the email industry has suffered in spam and bad actors and phishing and all those kind of things. So they put what you would call like verification processes that you just instantly can't turn on a number and be texting from it. You need to fill out forms, go through a vetting process, things like that. There's different processes based on the type of number you're using, whether it's a toll-free number or a local number, which is called a 10DLC, or even the long-standing short codes that are just 5 digits. Although small businesses don't use those as frequently, so those have rolled out. So you need to go through those processes to start texting. If you're just trying to enroll in that all by yourself, it's going to be confusing and a really big pain in the ass. But if you use a tool, a vendor, anything like that, they're going to walk you through it. It's going to be pretty painless. It's just going to take days to weeks, depending upon that type of verification. And that's where it currently stands. That said, I feel every quarter, it's just getting a little bit of a turn or a little bit more. And we'll just see where it continues to go. It's a fluid situation. The reasoning behind it is great. Some of the processes they put in, you can still be a spammer and get around them pretty easily.
That's my next question. How in the fuck do I have 400 spam messages then over the course of the last week with all these processes in place?
Yep. Well, it's kind of like... it's all about the first entry, right? So the outer wall of the kingdom isn't that big. There's at least a wall, but once you're in, you're in. And that's where it becomes hard, where all these spam messages, obviously, when we ramp up into our political environments, it hits a whole new level on being asked for donations and causes and what we need to do. But we'll see how things go if they put in more consistent checks and balances.
Yeah, and you probably don't know this about me, but I do have a poli-sci degree. So if you want to dive down the political rabbit hole, you just let me know, sir.
Oh man, I feel like there's enough podcasts on that. We can leave that one alone.
Yeah, we'll set that one out. You can make the argument, though, the more vigilant they are and the higher the barrier to entry, the more investment that somebody has to set forth in order to text, the more valuable it is for the people that actually do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, for so many reasons, and we can dive into some of those, but it is emerged as the best one-to-one contact platform that you can have with a consumer, a prospect, and even in our personal lives. So I think a couple of things to point out. One, like with our tool, we are not a mass texting tool. So a lot of people, when they think of business and text messaging or text marketing, they think of, blasting your special deal or your offer or one message to as many people as on your list. What we're focusing on is how do we open up that avenue so that a consumer, a prospect can raise their hand and say, I have a question, I want to know more, I want to take a next step, can you get me an estimate, whatever that might be. And they're doing it via text message, which is most likely their most popular channel that they're utilizing. And just as you hinted at, it's the one that you're going to open, you're going to see that text message. 99% of text messages are seen within the first 3 minutes of receiving them. And right, that number for email is in like the low 20s to teens. So it's drastically different. It's a direct connection to the consumer that's there and the consumer to the business. And as we've seen, it started to gain traction. And really, I look at it that the pandemic threw it into overdrive because businesses were looking, how can we better contact and be in touch, and they were changing processes to be no touch and things like that. So even pulling up to your local restaurant to get curbside pickup, you would text them, hey, I'm in the parking lot, bring out my order. So we saw this adoption that might have taken another 5 years really shrink into like a year or two and just fast forward. And so now we really see it where most people, if you see a phone number, there's part of you that assumes if I see that phone number, I can text it as well. So when you're thinking about yourself as a contracting business, a roofing business, you're doing billboard ads, you have vehicles with a phone number and everything else. If that number that's on that vehicle isn't text enabled, you might be losing some people that I don't have time to step out of work for a phone call. I don't want to focus for 10 minutes to make a call. Whatever's going on in life, text messaging is asynchronous. It's the easiest thing for us to manage. For us to fire off a quick text while we're bored in a meeting or riding in a noisy car with our kids or doing whatever else, like that's no problem at all. So it's all of these things kind of combined that really make text an incredibly valuable channel to have a direct connection with your prospect or customer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that statement. And there's nothing more frustrating, speaking personally as a consumer, when I assume I can text and you get that message like landline unable to text. I'm like, God damn it. Now I got to call somebody.
Yep.
I don't want to talk right now.
Yep.
It's kind of like meeting them where they're at. So we do custom web design and development, and we study these things as far as interactions with different CTAs. And I'm of the mindset when we're designing and developing a website, we're going to give them a few different options. We're not going to dictate how you give us your information or how you choose to engage with the brand, right? So, and there's definitely a correlation between age and how people choose to engage, but some people like a contact form. Some people like the instant quote or an instant booking, click to call, text message is fantastic. So figuring out like, how do we get the most out of every person that comes to our website as far as giving ourselves the opportunity to sell this person something?
Yep.
Yeah, it's something you should do. Right?
Yeah. Mike, you just hit on so many things that I could probably soapbox on for the entire rest of this episode of this podcast. But I think just to touch on, maybe let's just start with the high level that I think you totally get right? Meeting them where they're at. Or in our case, how we define this is the golden rule of business is now being easy to work with. Right? We are in a service economy. That is what drives how people make decisions and choices. We see it in our online purchases, what has reviews, what has the fastest shipping, what can be dropped off right at my door. What is the most frictionless experience I can have? Because I have a million other things I want to do in the day and get to stress about and everything else. So that's definitely one part of conversion. As we look at it, and what's built into our tools is optionality. So where we place one of ours is a widget, right? The floating buttons that you'll see on the screen, similar to like a live chat. And those for us, we can talk about some of the call to action things. But when you click to open it, not only can you start a text conversation, but we allow you to place call to actions to click to call. You can request a call. So you can say, hey, I'd like you to call me. I'm a phone person, but I'd rather you initiated it than me calling in. And who do I
power play?
Yeah, exactly. But some people are like, who do I need to ask for? Will I get a voicemail and leave a voice? Right? They don't want all that rigmarole. And then can you link to any other? Is there a free estimate form? Is there a Calendly link? Things like that. So we view it as instantly putting power in that visitor and that prospect's hands of power of choice. If you want to call, knock yourself out. You want to text, go ahead and do it. You want to fill out a form, go ahead. You want to book something, go ahead. And we see that conversion is driven when you offer optionality as a key factor instead of saying, here's the only way to work with us. You have to call us. You have to run the race our way in order to make it to the finish line. Whereas with what you already stated, it's no, make it easy for them. Meet them where they are and field as many opportunities as you can and let your process do the work of converting them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have a question. So if I'm thinking of this, I think, okay, so people are conditioned in search to go to a website, and a lot of people submit forms, right? Because they don't want to talk right now, but they want information. Is it as simple as swapping out some code on like a Gravity form for when they're submitting their information, instead of submitting that via email, that when they click submit, it goes right to the text message so that the contractor is more readily aware of it?
Yeah. So how it works with us is we actually have a form building solution built into our product that it's directly powered by the SMS that's available in our tool. So our platform is an app itself that has its own inbox and has its own app. So they're going to get a push notification on their phone that they have a new lead, regardless if it's coming in from a form, from that widget that I mentioned, anything else. And segmenting it this way helps prioritize it too. And there's a number of benefits. So by sending in this app, I can have one person, 3 people, 10 people, 20 people at our company that all have a user account into this app. And any of them are going to see when that new lead comes in. So who's ever first available to answer it and to help that customer can do it. Instead of it only going, well, it's only tied to Larry's number and going to his phone, and he's up on a roof right now and he's not looking at his phone and everything else. Now it's just all centralized and in a shared inbox where everyone can see access, and the first person available can go and help them. But it is very similar, our form builder, to like a Gravity form. So the user fills out that form of whatever you created to capture. We instantly send them a text auto reply like, hey, we got, your information you filled out. Well, we're going to text you back shortly. Or do you have any additional questions? So just being able to continue that conversation quickly and easily.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. As far as when people are texting, do you guys offer agents on the service's behalf, or is it all the conversation? Is it all spearheaded by client side?
Yep, it's all spearheaded by the client side. We do have some clients that will use like a virtual assistant or a call center, and they will have them with access into our tool. But what we're really trying to do is like, how do we get that consumer quickly in touch with your team that is likely the best, to close them. Yep. That said, we have a number of different like automation tools. So like one is a keyword. So the first message when they fill out and just say, hey, here's me and I have a question, you reply and be like, great. Are you looking, if you're looking for a roofing estimate, reply estimate. If you're an existing project, type project. And then once they type that for a reply, then it'll automatically send the next one. So if they said estimate, then you can say, great, let's start off with what is your address. So you can automatically get them into your qualification process before a human on your team has to touch it. So a lot of times we're helping produce leads that are already partially being qualified. And then your team is just picking up from some of the automation tools that you've set up. And then just to throw out there, because everyone asks this, what about AI? So we have some AI features in our product. We are not using AI agents to respond to leads so far because of a couple things. One is AI has no motivation to close a deal, right? They're not going to get paid more. They're not going to get a commission. They're not going to get anything else. And they lack empathy. So those are skills on the human side that a human responsible for knows that we need to land this project. I want to make commission. We need to get this sale, things like that. So do we continue to keep an eye on it? Absolutely. But as of right now, we have a bunch of different tools to make conversations easier and move them along, but just trusting an AI agent to close business for you that can be 4, 5, 6 figures worth of business. I'm not willing to let an AI agent be the one that be make or break for me on that right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
When did Leadferno start?
A little over 4 years ago.
Tell me about the 10 years before that. What were you doing?
Oh man. So I am a lifelong digital entrepreneur. So the first part of my career started off in the digital agency world. So building digital agencies like what you guys do, building websites, SEO, search marketing, local search, AdWords, social campaigns, apps, all of those kind of things. And after about 15 plus years, my last agency that I was part owner in and building, we exceeded 50 employees, and over $6 million a run rate. And I was just kind of burnt out on agencies. It's, as you know, it is not for the thin skinned. And after 15 plus years, I was like, okay. And I got lucky and got into just strictly building software products, specifically in the software as a service, building tools that people can log into and leverage. So before Leadferno, I was actually the CEO of a company that earlier guest of yours, Mike Blumenthal, was part of, Gather Up. And listen to Mike's episode, really great episode. Great fodder for this. That's all about driving traffic and getting more people to your website or reaching out to you. We're about converting it. But yeah, so got into that, and we scaled to working with over 25,000 businesses globally on getting more reviews, managing their reviews, replying to their reviews, all of those elements. So the precipice for Leadferno was really in building hundreds of websites of all sizes. I wanted kind of a conversion contact tool out of the box that did a bunch of different things instead of piecemealing different pieces into different parts of the site and things like that. And then number two, and just seeing millions upon millions of reviews. And every time we did studies, really the biggest factor between a 1-star and a 5-star review ended up being communication. People stopped communicating. They didn't reply fast enough. They fell short. They didn't say what they're going to do. All these things. So Leadferno really sought to combine that with how can we make conversion a lot easier, and how do we power it in a communication way that people feel better about, have more trust in, and is a win-win for both sides because it moves faster and you still have, as the kids would say, receipts, right? Like when you text and someone's telling you a price or a time it's going to be done, you have that in the conversation. When you do that over a phone call, it's a he say, she say after that, unless you say, oh, now email me that in writing or give it to me in writing. So all of those things turn into benefit. And all those were like the core things that we tested. When we did some initial pilots, we saw, wow, just by having buttons on the website, and ours say much more than this, but just by saying you can text us, we saw an increase in conversion rate and continue to see so when we do CRO tests with businesses.
Love that. I had a question.
Yeah.
So when you go to start a business, you got this idea how it's going to go, and then it actually goes, and everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So what was one challenge as you launched Leadferno that you didn't foresee coming or saw playing out differently?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, there's a million. So we can go through that list. But yeah, I would say one is, 4 years ago when we started this, that same thing we were talking about on verification and, the FCC and other things getting involved with text messaging. That was one we didn't see at all, where when we started this, we could spin up a number in 5 seconds and your inbox was live and you were off and texting. And then all of a sudden, with very little, that these guys are moving so fast, and the same as a small business, right? Move fast, break things, you pick up the pieces. This verification processes have exactly worked that way, right? It's like a group of people that start it and put together a half-ass baked platform to start the process, and it's got bugs and it's riddled. And so it's just like, hey, in 30 days, everything's different. And now you need to apply, and here's what you need to provide and whatever else. Really incomplete documentation, everything. So that one has been a learning curve. And like I said, every 3 to 6 months, there's a new wrinkle or something's changing with it for sure. And then just another one, and without getting too geeky, right? We have both a web app, so you can log in via your browser and just be texting right from your laptop and computer, a full keyboard, great for power users. But then we have mobile apps as well. So it was the first time for me where I had built an app. At GatherUp, we were just strictly a web-based app, and it was mobile friendly if you pulled it up on your phone. So just the more things that go into when you're deploying basically 3 separate products of a web app, an Android app, an iPhone app, it just adds a lot of complexity because you're kind of doing everything times 3 every time you do it. Right.
Yeah, I can see how that could be challenging and equally frustrating.
Yep. But you learn a lot. You sure learn a lot.
Yeah. That's for damn sure. It's wild, that same friction that was caused by regulation. I think regulation, it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. It shocks me that with the amount of time that has run where people are getting just scorched by SEO companies and marketing agencies that do nefarious things to rob people of their money, that there's zero regulation, even just like a baseline regulation of like, there's some sort of audit that you have to do. Like maybe you didn't have the best process. Maybe you really didn't know what the fuck you were talking about, but you put forth a college effort, right? You did your best. Yeah. You actually spent time and energy on this for what you're being paid for to try to materialize results. And there's just nothing. It's insane to me.
Yeah. And I think there's so many components to it, right? Like one way or another, and Mike's interview touched on this, right? Like when digital marketing, you're kind of living in Google's world, right? And they dominate and own so much of it. And if they decide to do something, then whatever will happen with it, right? But what prods them to do something is usually like a loss of revenue or a competitor pushing on that side or whatever else. It's not out of, hey, this should be good because we fundamentally want it to be good, right? When you think about like review spam and just what goes on with that, it really hasn't been until some of the state's attorney generals have gotten involved with consumers reporting. I chose this business and it had hundreds or thousands of 5-star reviews, but these have to be false. Like, because my experience was a 0-star. And once I started looking into these, like, this makes no sense. Or you get competitors reporting on each other, right? I'm sure your listeners definitely have, here was my competitor that had 2 reviews and 30 days later they have 400, like, what's going on? So in some extreme cases, we've seen a little bit more government involvement on something like that. But yeah, when you get into SEO, ultimately it's a service no different than a carpet cleaner or a roofer or whatever else. And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, sometimes the people that buy these services are getting scammed and abused. And it's why it's so important for the other ones to do all the right things. And you're trying to have, Better Business Bureau seal of approval and other things that you do. You're trying to put your credibility out there and have it speak for you because someone else is using no credibility, but using a cheaper price or broken promises, hollow promises, whatever that might be. But yeah, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen in the world of SEO.
Yeah, and part of it comes back on you as a consumer, right? Whoever it is purchasing the service, you need to take the necessary steps to ensure that, you're working with a good company. I put out a video like 2 years ago, 21 questions to ask any marketing agency on the YouTube channel for Ascend Digital Agency. If you're listening and you haven't watched it, you should go fucking watch it. Because literally, 80+% of our leads come directly from just being in like roofing communities online and them DMing. Yep. And almost 100% of our conversations start something like, I was working with this company. They promised me this. I didn't get shit. I've worked with 3 companies. They promised me this. I didn't get shit. And if you better know what questions to ask, you can isolate the extent to which you feel confident much more accurately than just saying, I saw some reviews. Or this person said that they were using them. But on the regulation side, when it comes to things like SEO or ads, like you said, carpet cleaner, roofer, you're purchasing a service. It's pretty easy to determine if somebody came and cleaned your carpet. Now, maybe the carpet still sucks. So for instance, it's funny you say carpet cleaner. I had a carpet cleaner come to my house and it smelled like dog when they left, which was really weird because I have hardwood floors throughout my house. And the only thing I had them steam clean was the couch. And all of a sudden it smelled like dog, and it didn't smell like dog before. And I'm like, you guys got to come fucking fix this. I'm like, it smelled awful in my entire house ever since you guys came and cleaned my couch. So they refunded it, and I ended up just taking the casing of the cushions out and washing them. But I knew that if nothing else, they came, right? And they deployed people and they tried to do the job. Whereas like a lot of the times you got a company that's saying they're doing SEO, and it's not like they're charging $30 a month, $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, and aren't doing a goddamn thing. That's pretty easy to prove, right? If there was some sort of like oversight committee to be like, let's see what you did. Show us. I don't know. It's interesting because it makes our job a lot harder and a lot easier.
Totally. One thing that I look at, and to your point of asking the right questions, I almost always ask somebody like, who are your 2 or 3 longest customers? How long have they been a customer? And can I talk to them? And for any legitimate business, that's going to be easy for them. And it should be people that are very long term, and you should be able to talk to them, and they'll be able to tell you, yep, we got results. They're reliable. They're great communicators, all those things. If they're like, oh yeah, our longest customer is 3 months, that means they're turning and burning because they're disappointing people, right? And even on the other side, I look at, I will do all kinds of things. I mean, if any of your listeners out of this end up wanting to be interested in Leadferno, reach out. They will find out, we have a 2-week free trial. I'll give you 50% off your first month or 2. Like, I don't care about that. I want you as a customer for years. I don't care about
LTV.
Yeah. It's all about lifetime value. So, and within anything, the same should be if somebody's building that website. Yeah, we want to do your updates. We want to continue to help you with new marketing trends, build out content, deliver you reporting, insights, whatever those things should be. Everybody should be after that. If you're only after just a turn and burn and one-time service, that's not longevity in a business. So that to me is the ultimate hack of, tell me a couple of your longest customers and can I contact them? And if they're like, no, you can't contact them, it's like, well, then they don't exist and I probably won't choose you.
Number one red flag is we actually have a non-disclosure. So that's just as bad as, this proprietary thing that we're doing that we really can't show you. As far as red flags are concerned, what my favorite follow-up to that question that you just asked is about talking to 3 of your longest standing customers?
Yeah. What's that?
Let me talk to one customer that's a former customer that you no longer do business with.
Oh, yeah. That would be a hard hitter.
Because here's the thing, it's going to tell you about how that company handles adversity, right? And maybe that customer left because they didn't perform. Maybe they left because their cousin decided to take over the website or the whatever the deliverable is, right?
Yep.
But how people respond in that, 99.9% of the time, it's easy to be kind, to be honest, to be transparent, to be all the things that you want out of somebody that you're doing business with.
Yep.
It's that 1/10%, right? When you're like, hey, by the way, I'm not paying you anymore. We're going to go in a different direction. Like, how did that person respond?
Yep. Yeah, totally. So, no, I get it. And that's where it comes in to have great business practices too, right? Like when people leave Leadferno, they almost always are going to get an email from me because I see the list on who leaves in a month, and it's small, so it's easy for me to do a reach out and just say, hey, well, how did we miss the mark? Where did we go wrong? Is there anything that I could do that would change your mind? Because that feedback is what's going to help make me a better business, right? So doing those kind of things is definitely important, and having those great communication lines and is just so important. And hopefully you've already established that in your pre-sales process and everything else so that you actually get answers from those people and they're not, walking away super pissed. And just as you put, they might be a reference for somebody just to rule out like, yeah, it didn't work for them for whatever reason, but they're at least good communicators and decent to do business with. That's what they're really checking on.
I would argue that that's almost more important than the people that you speak to that talk about how good of a job you did, if not equally important, right? It's, in a shitty situation, they gave me everything that they promised. They made it seamless. They didn't try to hold anything hostage, right? It was really easy to transition away. And for us in the website side, like that's That's huge because a lot of companies, they hold your domain hostage. They send you a bullshit file with 1,000 puzzle pieces that you need a developer to put back together, right?
Yeah.
There's no need for it. So let's make it as seamless as possible. And I love your point as far as like the personal touch, the follow-up, because that could also increase the likelihood that they do come back to you at some point. Maybe they leave for a cheaper solution. They find something else they think can do a comparable job. It costs less. We're going to try this. Grass isn't greener. I really like that guy anyways. Aaron reached out personally, and that made me feel good. I'm going to go back to Leadferno. By the way, for y'all watching this, it's not a terrible thing, like on an exit interview, to have that same conversation with your employees.
Oh, yeah.
What is it that drove your decision? Obviously, you felt something would be better elsewhere, and like we're fine with that. We want you to grow with us, but if you grow outside of the company, like that's fantastic too. We just want to use it as an opportunity to improve the company. Like, what things could we improve on? Because that's when you're going to get the honest feedback. It's not when you send out the request for your anonymous feedback forms, right? Yep. And everybody fears no matter what that they might be judged or might be held against them if they speak out against the regime. Yep. But in those moments where they're departing, you get some good honest feedback.
For sure.
Yeah. What questions you got for me?
Yeah. What do you see as a mistake in the roofing industry as far as communication, right? Like what happens? Where do you think roofing companies make mistakes in kind of their pre-sales from that initial, like it's a prospect for whatever reason, and we need to get them through these 2 steps, 3 steps, whatever it is, until we have feet on the roof. Like where do things go wrong within that?
I think a lot of the time they don't know where to turn. And a lot of the guys and gals have manual processes, right? And they have the best of intentions. But, when you're in I don't want to say a startup, but when you're in a small business and let's say you're $1 million to $2 million and it's you and maybe one other person and you guys are wearing all the hats, shuffling around, like you could have the best of intentions to make sure like, okay, this process, this is what's going to happen here. Half the time it doesn't get written down, and the other half the time when it does get written down, a very small percentage of those times is going to actually come to fruition, right? So I think that it's trying to take on too much, and there's not a way to make it easy, because just like marketing, there's so many of these fucking gurus out here with AI and lead capture and systems that you can purchase to nurture the lead, to get them to the point where you're up on the roof, and a lot of them are dog shit. Right. Yep. So people are nervous to commit to a company that can quote unquote solve their problems because of all the nefarious actors out there and horror stories that you hear. And you've got a little bit of money at that point to invest in the marketing, advertising, and things that adjacent to that, conversion oriented activities. And it's like, where do I spend it? And now they start thinking about it. And they start researching. And next thing you know, phones ring because the crew fucked something up on the job, or the customer called that they need you to come do an estimate for them. Now that takes priority. This takes a back seat, and it might be a day, it might be 3 months until you actually have the bandwidth to think about it again.
Yep. What do you guys look at, or what do you talk about with your customers regarding their web presence when, right, you're trying to use the site, the visuals, the content as a conversion motion, right? You want it to build trust, you want it to inform them, you want it to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's so that they take that next step. What are some of the main things that you're talking about with your guys' clients to win those?
Yeah. So meaning that after the site that we're going to build for them, not their existing site?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'll show you. So one is like, don't use stock photos, right? It's like, It's like putting hubcaps on a Lamborghini. Like there's just some things you don't do.
Yep. Well, and the benefits to just spending 2 hours and having a photographer come to your office, take photos, go to a project or two, whatever else. Now you have all that you can use in print materials, when you run ads, sponsoring all the local things on your social media channels. Like a half day of photography is going to pay dividends over and over and over again to the nth degree.
Yeah. And same thing with videography, right? You could re-chop that up a bunch of different ways and use the same hour of footage and B-roll and different videos a bunch of different times on different platforms. I couldn't agree with you more. So like when you land on this page, obviously you got the phone number, you got their social credentials. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I got it.
You've got your get in touch, you've got your instant roof quote. So there's, 3 different conversion methods right when you step onto the website. With that, we're emphasizing we're master elite because that's important. It's reiterated here. 3-star President's Club winner. So like your accreditations and any type of trust that we can build, that's super important. Yep. Then a hero form pops up with all the requisite information, your trust badges, the ones that we find most compelling, your 5-star rated, like that's super important. That builds trust. More trust the experts. Team photos, right up here. You see the office, the brick and mortar. You see trucks, you see people, and you'll notice that commonality throughout. We like to do like subliminal branding, whether it's picture framing or some sort of design component to grab the attention to the brand specifically throughout the site, right? Here you'll see them at like some of the President's Club stuff, team photos, like, hey, it's more than just a roofing company. Like we invest in things into the community, into our team. Yep. And ultimately people are afraid to work with roofing companies because they hear the goddamn like terrorizing stories of all the bad things that happen. From here, it's just educating them as far as the different services that we offer. All these different pages will actually link to an individual page of content. Like site structure is super important, as you know, right? Especially when it comes to foundational SEO. So I always tell people, like, we build a website the way the manufacturer builds your owner's manual for your car, right? It's very intuitive. If you need something, you go to the back, it's alphabetized. You have like your quote unquote sitemap for your owner's manual, where it's like, hey, if I need an oil change, I go to oil. Okay, oil change, page 41, part B. Well, if you need residential roofing and you need roof replacement, it's very easy to find. And it's easy for Google to crawl and present that information to somebody searching. Yep. Here's the different types of roofs that we offer material-wise. They all have individual pages of content. So I guess it's a combination of like educating, like what do we do for people? What services do we offer? And how can we make it easier for you as far as like, hey, we can get you a price. Hey, we have financing. And I guess presenting it in a way that compels people through custom design, as opposed to this site looking like the 3 other roofing websites that they're going to come to. Because I can promise you, you look for a company in this area, they're not going to have a site anything like this.
Yep, totally. And I think that allows some great things for me to point out when you think about that. So, right, number one, you're putting together this compelling content that is going to build trust, maybe answer some questions, but a lot of times too, your content can't answer every question. So that's why you need these jump off points. And so it's really considering, to me, one thing I always stress with people for conversion is, can you make yourself approachable for questions? If all of your CTAs are just a buy now, or in that case, like get a price, you're saying, hey, we got to go from A to Z to have a relationship here. And a lot of times we know as a prospect or a consumer, I might just have 1 or 2 questions. I might be, who else house have you done in my neighborhood? Or do you offer this kind of product? Or what's the timetable looking like? And so when you have a CTA that allows for questions, because a lot of times if somebody just gets 1 question answered, now they're ready to move forward, or 2 quick questions, now they're ready to move forward. So, so often we're asking for the sale, when if we use CTAs that ask for contact or ask just to start a conversation, that can definitely benefit us. So with our like CTA buttons that we put on the site for our widget, we call it the lead box. It has 3 different components that you can optimize. The core component button is a choice of like text us, contact, message. You choose what that is. Then it has a little ellipse on the top we call a highlight, and that can be used for social proof. So you can plug in your reviews. So you could say 4.9 stars out of 550 reviews. Whatever your average is, you can combine sites. So it's not just relegated to one site. So you could use the total of my Facebook, my Google, my Home Advisor, whatever that is, and present that. So now you have social proof always visible on the screen as well. You could also choose to do like callback time. So you could say average reply 5 minutes, average reply 10 minutes, something like that. And then there's also custom. So up to 22 characters, you could say $100 off or quick free estimate, whatever you wanted with it. And then the third element is a button that comes in 3 seconds later on a timer. The same thing you were talking about with some motion to attract them. And that one is 20 characters. You can put whatever you want. So you can put roof questions or questions, just ask, something like that. So we really say use these 3 elements to 1, texting, 2, provide some type of social proof or something numeric that is tangible for people, And 3, be approachable for questions, not just buy now. There's enough
buy.
Yes, exactly. There's enough buy. So it's like, all we want to do is start the conversation. And that's the other thing I like to point out. Text messaging works great for that. And if they text you, you answer that. Then you can completely follow up and be like, hey, can I jump on a call with you real quick and we can get a few things hammered out or get you scheduled? So I tell people all the time, if the lead starts in text, it doesn't have to stay there. Our job is to create conversions for you. After that happens, whatever your process needs to do to get an in-home visit, get them on the phone, get them booked into a calendar, whatever that might be, go ahead and do that. But we overwhelmingly see by offering texting, which somebody's still behind a keyboard, it's their preferred channel. They know they're going to see when you reply. They also have high confidence that you're going to reply, right? How many times have any of us filled out a small business contact form? Where did it go, right? Like, unbelievable. We actually, not to end up on a tangent, but we did a study on this. We filled out 225 contact forms on small businesses within home services, professional services, and medical services like dentists, chiropractors, things like that. 42% of those 225 we filled out never replied at all. They just went into the ether, right? Unbelievably terrible. 85% of the ones that we filled out didn't even send an auto reply. This is just a basic feature in any form builder that instantly sends a reply when you fill out a form that says, great, we got it. You can hear from us in 2 business hours, up to 8 business hours, up to 24. You're setting an expectation, but you're saying, we got it. We're going to follow up with you. Here's an expectation. 85% of them didn't even send this that takes 2 minutes to set up and is done for you automatically every time. And then, the average response time to this was 17 hours and 49 minutes was the average response time to a lead. And in today's business climate, that's way too long. After a few hours, I'm like, did they get it? Do they exist? Are they too busy for me? And I'm going back to the search results and finding the next one because I just want to get this problem solved, get something scheduled, know somebody's looking into it. So those are some things that just like really, really stood out that were mind blowing. And then even attempts, right? 65% only did one follow-up attempt on the lead. Didn't even twice. Didn't even, we texted you and then we emailed you to try that. Or we emailed you and then we called you. Like, just wait. Like, the lead is the hardest thing to get. You're not going to put in another 30 seconds to call them a second time or send something else, right? It was mind blowing.
That's a real challenge, the follow-up on the home service side. A lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah. And then we'd see ones that 13% made 2 attempts, 8% made 3 attempts. And then we had this outlier. We had 8% that did 8 or more, right? Like, these people, they've got a process, they have automation, like they're going to milk that thing for every opportunity that they can. And I would say, 8 was probably excessive. I was entertained because we were just doing this for research. So I wasn't pissed about it, but someone else would probably be pissed about it. But
they're going to get an answer.
Yeah.
You owe them a yes or a no.
Yeah. And that's another great point, Mike, with text. It's so easy to text someone and be like, I'm just following up because you said you needed help and I want to make sure you got that help. Can you just let me know if you're still interested? Yes or no? When I do that, even for our business, I get a reply 95% of the time because it takes them 3 seconds to say, not anymore, found something else, no. But I at least know that lead is to bed. Sometimes based on what they tell me, there's an opening for me to come back with a counter and to overcome an objection and maybe get them back. To get a reply out of email, people will just rather delete that email and depend on you wearing out of reaching out to them. Or even if they're like, I'm still interested, but now's not the right time, but I don't want any pressure in this, they'll just not reply. They'll not pick up the phone. They'll not call you back. You will get that reply in text messaging far more than you will using other channels like email and phone calls.
Yeah, for the text, one that's one of my good friends, he said what works really well for him is, have you given up on your project? Like, and that would be like 3 communications in, 10 days later from the inception of the lead, it goes.
Yep.
Have you given up on your project?
Yep.
And we get a response every time we send that message. Yep.
And one of the automations I always point out to our users, so you combine a couple of features. So one, we have a feature called shortcuts. So you can build a library of saved messages, questions, replies, links, things that you frequently use. Let's save your fingers some typing. So just in a couple of taps, you can pull up these messages that are already pre-written, whether it be a question or an answer. You can still edit them if you need to, but you can pull that up and then you can schedule that message to send in the future. So if you have a lead that hasn't responded, within 60 seconds, I can set up 3 scheduled messages to go out every 24 hours. That's just kind of a drip of, are you still interested? Let me know. Just following up again, want to make sure you get the help that you were looking for. Are you still interested? Just quick, short messages. In 60 seconds, I can set those to automate over the next 3 days, the next week, whatever intervals you decide. And the system is doing it for you. And if they reply to it, great. Then you just, in one click, kill off the scheduled messages. Now your lead is back to communicating and you can interact with them. So it's things like that where using a business app for text messaging instead of just routing things to your phone, there's just so many advantages in how efficient you can be, what you have access to, the feature set that we build for you compared to, I'll just link my own personal phone on the website and handle those. Well, now they're only all going to one person. You don't have automations. You don't have reminders, all kinds of things.
Do you guys have the ability to tie that into their CRM?
Yeah. So the easiest way to do this is using Zapier. So that's a no-code tool that allows you to connect 2 pieces of software. So we have people that connect to, Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, any CRM that's out there. And there's a few different ways that you can do it. Probably the most commonly used in ours is you have the ability to tag a conversation. So tags is kind of like a Swiss Army knife where you might tag it by what step is it in the process, what are they interested in, size of the project, whatever that might be. But you can create a tag that once you've qualified that lead enough, then that's what triggers the automation to send it into your CRM. So people will use Leadferno as kind of a pre-qualifier to get, I'm using this so I get their address, a time to meet with them, whatever else. Then I will tag it with the tag lead, and that's what sends it into HubSpot or Pipedrive or whatever else that they're using for a CRM.
So what if a lot of roofers that I've had exposure to are intimidated by this type of tech for the purpose of being able to get from point A to point B? Yep. So how do they go about, they're using Zapier. Does somebody from your team help integrate it, or is there somebody that they have to pay to do it? Like, what does that look like? Yeah,
so we can give a little help. We do have a webinar we recorded live doing 3 or 4 different integrations that I always send them our YouTube channel. Like, here's videos on our product, and here's this webinar that will answer questions for you. A lot of times their agency is going to be able to help set some of these things up as well. But I definitely know for a fact, in the home services and the roofers we work with, like, we're seeing more and more be interested in these tools because automation saves them time, right? And they understand getting, my pieces of software where things aren't siloed and they're sharing information is definitely helpful. So we have info. We'll point them in the direction. Have I helped sit on a call and build automations for people? Yes, I sure have, because again, that builds a long-term relationship and gets them to refer us to someone else. But it is, pretty straightforward to do a lot of that stuff.
As long as they're not calling me like, Aaron said you're going to set up my goddamn automation. How about you tell Aaron that I said? I'd be
like, Mike is a Zapier guru. Hit him up. He will hook you up. So, and the other thing that you kind of touched on that I think is a good thing to point out, you talked about it being approachable, right? And sometimes tech feels overwhelming. That's another exact point for a tool like ours for a business instead of like a live chat tool. So I know from firsthand experience, I've used live chat in a number of my businesses because it definitely can be effective, especially in B2B and especially in the e-com world, because you're trying to win a session. In small business, you're really trying to win a customer. And that's why texting is better. But I know from firsthand experience, not everyone feels very comfortable in live chats. So when you have your team and staff that, okay, you have to be logged in, and then you have to make sure you've set that you're live or not live. And when you hear it ding, now you got to jump in and answer there's a lot of pressure. that your staff and team feels. And so what we see overwhelmingly is one person at that company or two people out of a 5, 10, 20, 40 person company is willing to help out with live chat, right? Because everybody's like, yeah, we don't want to. So now you have minimal coverage. You maybe only have one person. And if they're not in the office or they're on vacation, nobody's there to answer those live chats. Well, compare that to text messaging where everyone inside of your company knows how to text. And so they're just using a business texting app to be able to go in and handle these. Now you can have numerous people. You can also transfer these conversations. So if I'm handling it and it's a better fit for Susan on our team because she's an expert or she's in charge of billing or whatever else, I can say, hey, great, I'm going to ping Susan and she's going to answer you. I transfer the text message to her. She gets a notification. Now she's responding and it all comes from the same number. So it's not like the customer is getting 6 different messages from 6 different numbers to talk to people. So a lot of businesses are more familiar with live chat. About half our customers come from people defecting from live chat because they're like, it's frustrating. It takes a while to train people up. And even consumer expectations are so high, right? If we jump on a live chat and we don't get someone to help us within seconds or minutes, we're gone, right? Or you get the message, hey, wait while we find you an agent. You go into your other tabs, you're doing other things. They finally show up. You forgot about it. 2 hours later, you go back and then you're like, I'm not starting that all over again. With texting, you fill it out and they text you. And then if they text you again, you get a notification. Like we're already trained. We're Pavlov dog into our notifications on our phone. So we're not missing any of those. We're not held captive waiting. We don't start a live chat on our computer and then we're like, oh, now I got to run and take my kid to soccer practice or do whatever else. Like
It is so terrible.
Yeah. So it's like fully portable. So when people, ask me if they're looking at, all right, we should do something, quote, real time. I'm like, listen, you really should evaluate what's the stress and the change management for your team to do this versus having them text. The consumers also have lower expectations and it's their first language and how they want to communicate. So for the majority of businesses, it's just so much more of a win than live chat.
Yeah, I love that. So if somebody's interested in learning more about Leadferno because they listen to the most amazing podcast in the world, how would they go about doing it?
Yeah, thanks to that stamp of approval, going to leadferno.com, checking out our site, head to our blog. The stats I've cited, we have a number of surveys we've done and all of that data. We have case studies. So the same thing you're talking about, we're breaking down for you, how does it work for home services? Here's a case study. Real estate, here's a case study, right? We love interviewing our customers and having them talk about how easy it is to get started, the results that they have, things like that. So that's the best place. Otherwise, my parents were great at branding. I'm the only Aaron Weiche currently in the world. So if you Google Aaron Weiche, you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, whatever is out there. And I'm social. I'm happy to connect and answer. So yeah, I win that one. If I would have been another Joe Smith, I would have been on page 5, even with me knowing how to do SEO. So yeah. I got to thank my parents. That's where having a shitty, unpronounceable last name comes in handy and choosing a first name that isn't as common.
Silver linings, baby. Well, yep. I'm incredibly grateful for your time. I think it's a really cool product. And I think we should do a 2.0 sometime. We should circle back on this for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for you joining in today. And thanks to the team at Roofer for always helping make this show great. We gone.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.